California fires.
I'm going to tell you, he must be right.
I mean,
I
it's
sat over
been
a
bad.
hot towel over my head with the hottest water possible.
And well, warning you, I'm back on steroid asthma inhaler. So, good times. Just so you know.
From VentureX Studios,
Just so
it's
you
JP,
know.
Kathy, and the
Just so you
crew.
Man, the crew, it is Monday morning, and Kathy, I haven't been on in 4 years, 573 days.
I know. I wonder, are we going to be able to see your smiling face up here on the screen? Let's see if we can get a split screen with the two of us. There you go. You have been a busy boy. You've been busy with some truancy,
Well, and I'll tell you, Dr. Clothier is going to be right on target this morning talking about COVID mandates and COVID schools. I have been, like you said, in schools all over the state of Texas, and I can tell you that I have seen different mandates for different schools, and then when Joe Biden released what he released, holy moly.
Well, and it's different, different mandates for different school districts, but then within the school districts, I'm hearing an elementary school has one rules, a high school has a different set of rules. So you've got parents who, let's say I'm a mom and I've got a kid who's a freshman in high school, and I've got a kid who's a fifth grader in elementary school. I've got conflicting reports on what I do with my kids when they're sick, when they've been exposed, when a teacher's sick. It's really, really tough to keep up with everything right now.
Well, I'll tell you, if we could just delineate the politics, and here on JP Kathy and the crew with Dr. Clothier,
God bless you.
We do that. We have him sift it for us. Dr. Clothier, good morning.
Good morning. How are you today?
Well, I'll tell you what, allergies are just making my day fun.
Hey, you had to take a shower. I'm so happy.
Well, I don't take those normally except on Fridays. And so for a Monday shower, Dr. Clothier.
Oh, come on.
We'll remember this, and we'll make sure you skip a Friday later in the year so you're not concerned.
Very good.
Y'all are bad. Don't encourage him, Dr. Clothier. Don't encourage him.
In all seriousness, up and down the state, Dr. Clothier, I've been noticing COVID regulations are different. And then when Joe Biden came out, that's really put Texas, anyways, into a bit of a tailspin in what's going to happen next. Tell us about the science and about what you know and what's going on with COVID.
Yeah, I mean, that's the really significant challenge here, and I'm trying to get...
There you are.
There you are.
Okay. Oh, what happened there? But now I've happened here, I guess. So anyway, the challenge, with COVID is that it's a virus, and it's a medical condition, and it's potentially fatal. It's very unpredictable. I have a number of patients who have long-term symptoms, whether it's fatigue, shortness of breath, brain fog, wheezing, kidney issues, blood clots. There are a lot of repercussions. And, I know a lot of people want to speak to a low death rate. And the low death rate is very enticing until that hits a family or friend and they're suddenly gone. And you realize that a low death rate still means a death rate. But the long-term repercussions are real. And so the real challenge I find is that it's a medical syndrome, and it's become so highly politicized that, it supercharges people into ideas and thoughts and even declared information that's actually not even close to legitimately true. But it's because it's hit the political arena. And, I think everybody loves a nice conspiracy or a nice little thought on the side about things or a conjecture issue, and to me, for instance, and I know this is a hot button and I may, anger some of the listeners here, but, speaking of like ivermectin has become extremely popular to declare as a legitimate treatment for COVID because of politics. It is, frankly, not helpful in every study showing, evidence that is by double-blinded placebo, and it may be harmful. And in fact, there are, even deaths and kidney failure and other organ failure, liver failure, being caused by ivermectin. And I've had a number of people that call when I have patients call in and say they tested positive, they need their ivermectin. And I think, you got that from your neighbor on the internet, information-wise, it's not helpful. And boy, they get angry, because they've already declared their treatment, their syndrome. And, I think you really need to step back and listen to medical information, look at medical information. You don't get sound medical information by Googling COVID treatment. That's just not the way it is. It's going to be the popular wave of information and not the legitimate. So having said all that, I think that politics should stay out of it. I think, we're in a challenging realm because we do have a lot of government mandated health issues. We quarantine people if they have tuberculosis or if they have, aspergillosis or some other, very infectious syndrome. The guy with monkeypox that came into America, we quarantine him. The guy a few years ago with Ebola, we quarantine those folks. So there are government mandates to protect the population. My personal feeling is that with a shot, with the vaccine, it should never come down to an adult mandate. We do mandate shots, obviously, for schools. So that's kind of a different issue, too, because it's, again, a public health deal. I personally think we shouldn't come down to an adult mandate because we should have enough logical, smart adults to go get the shot with no mandate. And clearly the shot is the most beneficial way to affect this pandemic in a positive way, meaning reduce cases. But we have, a lot of very challenging, issues that have become extremely politicized where people don't want to get the shot. So we just keep having cases. The cases are overwhelming the system. We're having medical personnel, sick, die, quit, take furlough, whatever it is, because they cannot handle dealing with so much death and so many challenges with the hospital care, for instance. And I feel like that's a very significant challenge. If we had the vast majority of reasonable adults in America go get the shot, we'd never have to talk about any kind of a mandate. And I think that would be the favorable thing. I think it's just, to me, a very straightforward medical thing to go get your vaccine, limit the destruction of the virus on your body. The virus that's among us, not by political purpose, but by medical issue, and that we then could cut down on infections. Go ahead, Doc.
So, yeah, Dr. Clothier, I was going to ask, with the way things are going in public schools right now, what should teachers and students be doing to reduce the risk? One of the things that I've heard, I heard one school down in the Houston area went from 50 students to 500 students that tested positive for COVID-19. And I know it's a concern for the teachers that are back in the classroom. Have we gotten any new word on how to handle this, what we should be doing with it?
Well, what I believe should happen is everyone 12 and up should get a vaccine so that, even those teachers, if they're exposed to kids 11 and under who can't be vaccinated, that they at least have a more fighting chance against the virus and hopefully basically don't die or get a long COVID syndrome, an extended syndrome. So that's first. The second is we still have to get real about hygiene, social distancing, and masking. And people hate the idea of a mask. I want to point out what I pointed out last time was that if you look at a mask for virus and disease prevention, it's not a brand new idea. And it's not to recirculate your own carbon dioxide in the body. And it's not to restrict your freedom. It's to restrict spread of the virus by particles and droplets. And, if you look back at the risk of infection with surgeries, there's an era where it was determined that a surgeon, a scrub nurse, a scrub tech, an assistant, all in an operating room, they wear masks. The anesthesiologist wears a mask. There's nothing really weird about that. It's to reduce the risk of infection in a surgical field. And, look back, if you want to think about old style TV shows, MASH, they wore masks as they worked on people. That this is not a new phenomenon, and it's not a new restriction brought on by, anybody. It's an idea that is shown to reduce the spread of viral particles by about 95%. Now, that may not be considered, perfect by any means. There is no perfect in medicine or in air. The air quality is not perfect just because you have a filter in your home, that type of thing. But it sure does reduce that risk of infection. And I think what we've got to realize is fighting about masking, fighting about, restrictions, like if you're sick, you don't go to school that day. You're going to lose that fight to the virus, because the virus is real and it's mean, and it's got to be, we've all got to learn how to contain it. We've still only known about the virus for nearly 22 months, not quite 22 months. I wouldn't expect a 22-month-old child to be able to tell me what everything they know about their future and their management of their life and such. I think, you got to realize it's a learning curve, and we don't know the future outcome. We don't know how many people in the future will have, lung failure, respiratory failure from it, kidney failure, brain issues. It's a challenge. So you want to reduce the risk of infection. Now, that may mean some of the school districts are going to have to go virtual again for a while, and people hate that too, I know. The amazing thing to me is we have that technology. And if it stops the spread, if we could, if we may have to do something like shut down for a month, get the infection risk down. And then the other thing is we need to get vaccine to younger people too. We vaccinate children as young as 2 months old. Actually, you can vaccinate right after birth with hepatitis B to prevent a deadly liver and, devastating infection in the body. We need to get comfortable with the idea that a vaccine is a good way to combat a virus. And that has been lost in perspective. And I think it's time for us to refocus on the fact that we need more people to be vaccinated to reduce risk. And I think we've just got to face the reality that we need to get the vaccine approval down to younger people too, so that we can start to limit the amount of spread of the virus.
I think, Dr. Clothier, one of the things that makes people nervous about the shot is the vaccine is because you've got, for example, okay, the shots or, the vaccines that you get for your kids when they're little, the MRB or whatever the initials are for that and things of that nature. And those of us who don't think twice, now you still have the anti-vaxxers who don't get their kids vaccinated for anything. And heck, we even had somebody from Afghanistan come into the Wisconsin area and there's measles again. There you go. I wonder if it's, and maybe you can speak to this, and if we don't have time today, maybe next week. I think the concern, at least that I hear amongst my friends and family who do not want to get the shot yet, who may have other conditions or allergies to medicine and different things of that nature, is because there isn't enough data. Like you say, COVID's only been part of our world, it seems like forever, but it hasn't even been 2 years. It's been about 18 months. So how do you know that the vaccine is safe when you haven't had 30, 40, or even 10 years of testing to see if there's long-term effects or impacts or whatever the case may be?
Sure. My answer to that would be, how many deaths do we need to have before we start to combat an illness? And, if you want 10 years of data, you may not survive that 10 years to get there. And, the virus, the vaccine has been studied since 2003. That's actually a fairly long track record in modern history. If you want to look at, nearly any given product, let's say, for instance, the features in cars that are keep a car in a lane while driving, the radar technology there. You're talking about less time than that in development, and people rush out to buy that new technology to drive a little more safely, or to put it in the car for that. And, I know that's kind of a poor analogy when thinking about the car versus health. But, when we're talking about technological advancement, let's say, for instance, in 2 years, we find out that smartphones do radiate too much and cause, brain tumors. Would we look back and say, well, everybody should have waited 10 years before buying one so that we'd know? And, we don't tend to do that with anything else. And I think when we have a crisis causing a considerable amount of death and disability, I do think it's very reasonable to look at the track record of the medical scientists who work on this. And, I don't know how much longer people would wait. I heard a lot of people say, well, they don't want to do it until it's FDA approved, even though most of those people seem to hate the FDA. But I didn't see a big surge in shots when it got FDA approval. And I don't know if that'll be, 10 years, 14 years, 22 years. If they survive that long, they may get shot by them. It may be a non-issue because we may have so much death and disability in society that we have thinned down the population considerably, and you can't really get the virus because there aren't people around much. And, I just think all those arguments, and I hear arguments like, oh, I'm young and healthy, and so I really don't even need to think about getting the shot. And then we have ICUs full of young, healthy people right now who have COVID. And, I think at some point we got to get real about the fact that a virus really doesn't care too much what your politics are, what your age is. It can just overwhelm the body in a hurry. And I think when we have something that provides a fair barrier to that and a fair chance at recovery from that, I feel like that's a very reasonable thing to do. And I honestly don't know what would convince somebody years later versus now in terms of reduction of severity of illness. Look at the numbers of people in the hospital, in the ICU, that are the vast majority are unvaccinated. If you want to try your odds there, I guess that's, you can. I just think you also should look at the medical science and not the politics and see what happens. And I do agree that people are reluctant. I know that happened when polio was around, when measles was around, when mumps was around, in terms of higher levels. And I know there are people still today that say, oh, vaccine technology is there to hurt us, not help us. Look at the numbers and see that there really is a legitimate case to be made for it. Let's say you were that you drive a car. There are 120 deaths a day in America from cars. I mentioned that occasionally as a correlation. What if we found out there was a computer virus that infected car computers, and 1 in 50 would blow up when you start it, beginning, say, tomorrow morning? I don't know how many people would really be anxious to go start up their car, just knowing that, it's only 2% odds. That's pretty low rate. I don't know how often you want to go out and start your car. And I think, when we start looking at risk in a real way, that this virus, you could walk out of your home today, get it, and be devastated by it. Or you could reduce those odds considerably by getting the vaccine and by following the normal protocols, the usual new protocols to reduce the viral spread. And, be reasonable about it. Also be in communication with your family. If you end up on a ventilator, they need to know what to do with you. If if it's a devastating illness, they're not going to be able to visit you and discuss that with you because of the nature of the viral load and such, the viral risk. So these are real world issues. They're not politics. It's a virus. It's fact.
And Dr. Clothier, let's go ahead and clarify this because I want to make sure some of our listeners understand. You are talking strictly from the science and medical perspective. You are not imploring your own political stance or anything of that nature, correct?
It should not be viewed politically. This is medical risk. This is a severe, challenging virus. And I think we've got to get realistic about the fact that it is a very sincerely bad virus. And, it's taken all of us in medicine, out of medicine, whatever, to come around to that. I still hear people say, there is no virus. Not true. I hear people say, oh, it's just a cold. That's not true. It is, It's a challenging virus. I heard a comment yesterday. At church, somebody said, why is everybody so worried about this virus if you have to have a test to know if you have it or not? So, well, if you're hospitalized, short of breath, on a ventilator, you don't necessarily have to have a test to know you're sick. The issue is there are also other viruses that can mimic some of the symptoms. So by getting a test, you can know whether you're going to potentially kill your family member by carrying it home to them or just make them mildly sick. So that's what testing's about. Don't try to make it all a snarky issue. Realize it's a serious virus, and, there are people devastated, families that have been devastated by it. Let's be compassionate toward others because of medical risk. It's not political. It is medical.
Dr. Clothier, real quick, I know you've got patients to run to, but now they're coming out with home tests for COVID. Have you heard anything from your medical groups or societies talking about the validity of those home tests? Are they 100%? And I know nothing is really 100%, no. But you know what I mean. Are they accurate enough to be able to live by them and their responses?
I think the answer to that probably is they're accurate enough. The whole challenge with any testing is that a true positive is you're not going to get 100%. And so if, though, you do a home test, and presumably you would do that home test because you're sick or you're exposed, if it's positive, then to quarantine, watch for other worsening symptoms and such. If it's negative and you have symptoms, you should still get a PCR test, the more reliable and valid deep swab test. And, those can be a false negative. They can be a false positive. The numbers are low. The vast majority are pretty accurate. And the highest accuracy is if you take the exposed individual or the symptomatic individual and test them at the right time. If you do a test too soon, I think everybody's concern about the home test is, let's say you're exposed today and you go do a test tonight and it's negative, and you think, oh, I'm fine, but then tomorrow you have fever, chills, cough, but you say, oh, I had a negative test, I'm fine. That's because you tested too soon. So, there are so many nuances in that the challenge, I think, is with a home test, you still have to put medical logic to it. If you're sick and you need to be isolated. And if your test is negative at home, you may need another test, or you may need tests a day later when it actually has a chance to pick up on enough viral particle effect to turn positive. So it's all got to be done right. That's really the bottom line. I think the home test is fine. I think it just doesn't replace logic.
Gotcha. Well, Dr. Clothier, thank you so much. I know it is 8 o'clock and the bell has rung. I know you've got patients to see and don't want to keep you from that. Hey, next week, there's been some rumor that some of the chemicals on the test could be carcinogens. Can you look at that and maybe next week we talk about that?
I'll mention first, as my closing thought, that you started with, there's been a rumor that, and so be careful where information comes from.
No, I agree wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
That's why I want to dispel the myth. You're going to be my myth dispeller.
Mythbuster.
Mythbuster.
Are we stealing that from another show? Well, stay safe, Dr. Clothier. We appreciate you.
I'm staying away from that copyright infringement. All right.
Have a great day. Be blessed. Thank you, Dr. Clothier. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, though, Kathy. I mean, Dr. Clothier hits it right on the head, and I would never put him on the spot, but he's a conservative. Conservative.
Absolutely. I mean, and we don't, he doesn't come on the show to talk about his political beliefs or Christian beliefs. No. Now, we've spoken about that and his love of basketball with him because he is a devout Christian. He is conservative. He is very, very meticulous in his research. He's giving advice on our show and, take it or leave it. He's not, again, he said he thinks it needs to be up to the individual and doesn't agree with this mandate that you force people to do something. he's giving you advice like he would give you advice if you were a patient in his office, so to speak.
Right.
So I think, yeah, keep that in mind. But he does have updated information and has been able to, there have been a few myths that I've got to say, that things that I've done, and I'm doing air quotes, researched myself, and then I've gone and I've been like, oh my goodness, and then I hear what he says. I go to, the source that he's gone to, and I'm like, oh, okay, well, so I see why that is a rumor kind of a thing. And again, and you and I talk about this, and I know we've got Brett. Is Caleb? Oh, okay, well, Caleb's on mine. This is one of those things that, be smart about yourself and your family and do what's best for you. Somebody doesn't need to shove, a forced opinion or a forced action down our throats. We can make up our minds ourselves.
Yep. Nope. I agree completely.
I trust us. I trust we the people.
I do. I trust we the people as well. And, again, I agree with Dr. Clothier. It's like any other vaccine. I mean, Carter's vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. I was vaccinated as a kid.
Well, he vaccinated.
And
you mean
so,
all the kid, like the measles, mumps, rubella, and stuff.
Right.
Carter's
And
under
that's
1-year-old is not vaccinated. Let's not start that rumor, Judge Payton.
Well, not for
And
COVID.
he's like, hey,
I'm talking about regular
right, the regular
vaccines.
vaccinations. I guess I didn't even
Right.
think twice about going to get Emily and CJ vaccinated when it was time. That the pediatrician said, these are the next shots. We need you here next week. And I'm like, okay. I just never thought twice. Because I wanted all of the protection in the world for them, and didn't have an issue with those vaccines.
Right. And has Caleb jumped on with us?
I am.
Oh, all right,
Man.
Caleb.
What's going on?
It's time to clear out the vaccination conversation.
I didn't know
and
we
talk
were
about
live.
the party. Hey,
Can you
good
guys
morning.
hear me okay?
Yeah.
You
Oh,
sound
thank you.
great.
Well,
Thank
first
you.
of all, let me tell everybody I'm super excited about our next guest, Caleb Stewart. He was somebody that I got to come across when he was a high school student. Dot, Stewart, it's up to you now, baby.
Well, I tell you what, it was definitely a pleasure. I mean, given the circumstances weren't great, but out of the whole thing, you definitely made an impact on my life, and we formed a friendship. And actually, I did the math, and we believe it or not, we've been friends now for 6 years.
Yeah, I believe
It's been a while, yeah. So it's good to see you.
You too.
So yeah,
talk to us about your journey that led to you becoming an author, and now you're on IMBD's under 110,000 ranking now, so you're moving up the rankings as well. Talk to us about that. I mean, how exciting is this?
It's definitely it's got a lot more attention than what I thought. I only thought like 20 people would buy the book, and that would be the end of that. I didn't expect all the attention behind it. So I guess the journey started. What do I say without giving too much of it away? So yeah, the journey.
You're gonna have to give some up.
I was going to say, you've got to at least give the first part of the book so people will buy the book. And I do need the link for that book, by the way.
So my journey actually starts way beyond even the book was even an idea. I had grown up in Mesquite as a kid, and all the way up till I was about 8 years old. I didn't have a father figure in my life, and so my dad left when I was a kid, and so my mom was a single mom, and she only had one source of income. However, she was a drug addict, and so that income only goes so far. And so oftentimes she would feed her addiction and neglect my brother and I. And we would have to be forced to take care of ourselves. So it wasn't until I was 8 that my aunt and uncle got involved. And, we went to live with them under, I guess, in hopes that my mom would get help and recover, and then eventually would regain custody. However, she never did, and actually lost her battle with drug addiction. And so in the book, I started writing the book as actually a therapeutic thing. I didn't actually intend for it to be a book. I just wanted to get everything out. And so when I was writing the book, or writing what it was that I was originally writing, I said, you know what? Even though I struggled with all this, there's somebody out there who can relate to this. And so that's when I said, you know what? Let's just make it into a book. And yeah, so that's kind of like how the idea came about.
So did you experience substance abuse yourself?
I dabbled around in high school. I smoked a little bit of pot. I never really did a whole bunch of drugs because I seen where that would take you, you know. However, I didn't know that alcohol takes you down the same route. And so, yeah, I started drinking when I was 16 years old. And I was going into bars, opening bar tabs at 17, 18 years old. Yeah.
Did you have a fake ID, or how did you get in? And I know,
no. So,
I mean, how did you get into bars? And I mean, I'm sitting here thinking, heck, since I'm well over 40, even if I buy a bottle of wine at the grocery store, they card me.
Right.
You know.
Right. No. So I was very determined, I guess, to drink. You know, what I do is back then, I guess they just recently changed the smoking age to 21 now, I think. And so, but back then it was 18. And so what I would do is I would go to these bars and I'd stand out on the patio. And then usually I'd wait till somebody intoxicated rolled out of the bar and, you know, would ask me either for a cigarette or a lighter. And so I would say, yeah, sure, take it. Well, then when they'd come out, I'd give them like a $20 bill and I'd say, hey, look, you mind going and grabbing me a beer? Keep the change. They're like, heck yeah, I'm making $15 off of it. And so what I would do is when they'd bring it back, I'd make sure that the waitress saw me with it and that the bartender saw me with it because they would think I got it from each other. But they wouldn't talk to each other. Yeah. And
that's
so
a lot of work for a beer. That's a lot of work.
You know what though? But it did its job. Yeah.
Wow.
Wow. So your book, does it take us through the journey that you had to go through as a smaller kid, and then the journey that you chose as a high school student, and then the journey now where you have come out on the other side of that?
Yes, it does. It actually, so most books that I've read as far as addiction goes, they don't really touch upon like the actual like effects. Like you hear it almost talked about in a third person perspective. However, when I wrote it, I wanted to write it to where you, the reader, feel everything that I'm feeling. And so what I did was actually the book is compiled of 3 different parts of my life that make up the story. It's compiled of the past traumatic experiences that I've had, but it's also compiled up of times where I've questioned my own life. And then obviously the alcohol plays into effect. So I actually started writing the book at one of my darkest points in my life. And I continuously, as my life continued to progress, the book takes a direction towards progression. So you actually get to see the book go from a dark place over time to a brighter place.
Well, I'll tell you. And it's not just going to be a book, right? I mean, we're talking a movie now, right?
Yeah, we're making a movie out of it, yeah.
Yeah, how cool is that? I mean, get on the big screen and really be able to relate to people across the board. So how's that coming along? What's that process look like?
Oh, well, I tell you, when people see movies, they don't really know how much work goes into it. I didn't know how much work went into it. The first thing that I had to do was, find somebody who'd help me write a script. Then once you write the script, you got to find people that want to produce the script, and then they take that, they sell it to the studios. The studios then do the pre-production, which is the casting, the everything, and then they go from there. So yeah, it's a long process.
Now you're going to get me a chair, right, where I can sit and watch this being made.
He's going to have producer.
Oh, hey, I could party.
Woohoo! JP's got a walk-on part.
I know. We'll get you on the red carpet, man.
That's awesome. Well, how do people, Caleb? How do people get get a copy of your book? How do they follow you? Are you out there on social media as an author? How do we get in touch
I
with
am.
you?
So you right now you can buy the book one of two ways. You can go to Amazon and you just type in "What Happens Next" Caleb Stewart on Amazon and it'll pop up. We have the ebook available on Amazon right now. I just sent the book off to the editor, so I should expect it back within 3 to 4 weeks, and then I'll upload the final manuscript, and then paperback will come out on Amazon. Right now, you can also pre-order the book at Barnes and Noble. You can either go into any of their stores and pre-order it, or you can pre-order it online at Barnes and Noble. As far as social media goes, I'm very active on Instagram. Very active.
Mm-hmm.
I am. Yeah, I've actually amassed like 12,000 people that follow me on Instagram. So
good deal.
It grows every day. Yeah.
So, and Caleb, also tell them about your book tour that you're getting.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. So Barnes and Noble and I, we're doing a book tour. We're going to start in Texas. Just some of the ones out of the top of my head right now. We go Frisco, Plano, Dallas, Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Lubbock, El Paso, and there's a few others. But we're going to start. We're going to see how Texas goes. So we're going to start that at the end of November and go all the way up until the week before Christmas, because I know that retailing around the holidays is very big. And then hopefully next spring we're going to hit. Depending on how it goes, we'll try to do 50 states, 150 different cities.
Wow, man, I'm just so proud of you, brother.
That's awesome.
We've been following each other for 6 years, and I remember you walking to the dumpster with empty bottles of booze and throwing that stuff away. And I think some of them had booze in them.
It did.
I know that I've talked to Kathy, and we want to get you on This Pink Cloud as well.
Yes, yeah, it's a show all about recovery and inspiring and helping other people find happiness in recovery, and after either tragedy or after even if there's been generational addiction, how do you survive and thrive in that environment?
Right. Well, I always tell people, people ask me all the time, people who are suffering from addiction, how do you overcome it? And I think that's the $1 million question that everybody wants to know.
Yes.
And I mean, honestly, the thing is you have to know you have an issue and you have to want to change it. If you don't do either of those things, then you're going to still be stuck in a cycle.
And
Amen.
Yeah, we hear that over and over on This Pink Cloud and these stories and success stories of recovery. As a matter of fact, This Pink Cloud has Brian Cuban, who I'm sure you know of him. He's got another book coming out, and he's a recovering addict, cocaine and alcohol, and an eating disorder. And, just talks about the changes you make, and you've got to stick with it. But everybody will tell you on that show, the first step is saying, I want help. Somebody else can't force you to get that help.
Right. 100. I mean, it's true though. I mean, it's, and I tell you a lot of, I just think, especially now in today's society, I would encourage parents to be a whole lot more mindful of what their kids are up to. Because all it takes is, your kids to be exposed to a child that, that has parents that don't care if they get wasted at home or whatever, and then that's how I got started.
Did your mom know you were using at home?
Oh no! So my mom actually died when I was in 5th grade.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
But my aunt. Oh, it's okay. It's the book has made me learn to move past it. So I appreciate the condolences. No, my aunt, and JP will tell you, she did not like that at all. And she didn't even know it. So, I tried to hide it, but eventually I was coming home drunk or intoxicated, and they eventually found out, and it was just spiraling out of control. Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, we look forward to bringing you back on and seeing where you're at and what's going on. And You've always got my support, brother. So keep trucking.
Yeah,
Well, I
good for you,
appreciate it, JP.
Caleb.
Thank you. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on the show. Kathy, JP, thank you. And you and everybody else listening, I want you guys to have a great rest of y'all's day and good morning.
Thank you so much.
Caleb.
Bless you, Caleb.
All right.
Thank you, brother. Bye-bye.
Wow.
Yeah,
love to hear stories like that. And, that's another life you were able to touch, JP. And, it's for somebody who has a mom, I mean, his mom, gosh, I didn't realize 5th grade and she died of addiction. And so he's broken that cycle so he doesn't pass that on to the next generation. I just read a mutual friend of ours on Facebook posted yesterday, JP, that their 20-year-old next door neighbor, or neighbor, I don't know next door, but neighbor died of a Xanax overdose over the weekend. And so it's not just alcohol and underage drinking, and it's not just marijuana, and it's the fentanyl that gets cut in these things. It's prescription drugs that kids are stealing out of, somebody's medicine cabinet. Xanax is big out there. Yeah, and then selling it, or they're creating what's Xanax, and then it's cut with this fentanyl, and you take one pill and it kills you. It's heartbreaking when you just read. It's every day there's another tragedy, and I think with this pandemic, and we've talked about this. I know with this pandemic, drug abuse and alcohol abuse has gone up for all age groups, including those underage kids.
Yep. Oh yeah, it's
scary. It's just scary. Yeah.
Well, what's cool is to see somebody as young as Caleb getting out there and making a difference, and I love that. And he turned his journaling into a book, and now it's going to be a movie, and that's way super cool as well. So get out there. What Happens Next by Caleb Stewart. Spread the news, help a local guy get it out there. And he's all over the state of Texas at Barnes & Noble.
Love it.
Doing book signings, and he's got a California trip ahead of him as well. So
if he does a local, because JP, I know you and he are still friends, reach out to him and let him know if he does a local a Barnes & Noble signing somewhere here local in North Texas. You and I can go out there. We'll grab Charles Gura and we'll do a remote show promoting one of his book signings. Let's rock and roll. Let's rock and roll. Yeah, that would be great to do a remote out there promoting that. I think, and especially the fact that he's young and he can be a voice to a younger group. One of the members of the crew said, she's afraid this might happen to her son, and we're absolutely praying that this doesn't, and we're praying that rehab works for her son. I think somebody like Caleb, where, I'm well over 50, so I don't have the impact and influence on younger people like I did when I was a teacher back in my 20s. For some reason, when you get further removed, it's kind of like, rah, rah, rah. It's like the Peanuts voice, the teacher's voice. Wah, 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 wah. That's what kids hear. But when somebody younger like Caleb says something to somebody who's 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, he's going to have more of an impact.
Yep. Oh, I agree.
Yeah.
And that's why I say, we got to get the word out on someone like a Caleb, who's a young guy who other young people will listen to. Unlike you and I, we've hit that ancient range.
Well, you're still a young, not 50 yet.
Well, it's coming. The train is on the track, Catherine Ann.
You can see that light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
But I did want to plug that for another, 7 months I get to plug that you are not quite yet 50.
Right. But I'm almost there.
Oh.
So talking about almost there, how about the State Fair of Texas?
Woohoo!
Yeah, we got to break out with a little bit of fun for the last 9 minutes. It is 11 days, 1 hour, 38 minutes.
You're on the page with the countdown, aren't you? I love
11,
that.
10, 9. Yes, I am. You know I am. I love going there. Also, so if you had submitted some things to be judged, guess what? The winners are in.
I
And
love
so,
it.
of course, if you look at the homepage, this blows me away. It has Kathy's favorite ride on there, and it looks like all these people being thrown off of these little chairs on this crazy swing.
I
Like,
love the
whatever,
swing
Kathy.
ride. I love that. Of course, what did I tell you? My husband, every year we go to the fair, he's like, I'm going to go ahead and videotape so when your swing detaches and goes flying, I can capture that and show your children. I tried to talk her out of it.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm like Michael. I don't think I could watch you. I'd be like, you wouldn't get on that. I'm gonna turn my
It's
back.
so fun. It's so fun. You get to see
Yeah, I'm
everything
just,
because you're up high and you're swinging, and it's like that feeling. And that's why that, and then the pirate ship's my other favorite ride because I love rides where it feels like your stomach drops out of the bottom of your body. When it rises up and then it drops, that's like, I think that's so much fun.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, just go watch the picture. I'm watching people fly off. I
You're
know they are.
like, I'll be
There's no
over with the
doubt.
fried butter. Thanks, kid.
All right, and Mark Brewer just stole my thunder. Love
Uh-oh.
Mark.
Hello,
Yep,
Mark.
he says, remember, if you are a veteran, you basically can get your entire family in that day for free, and that's where I was going for today to highlight at the state fair. First Responders Day. It is a red card that they're giving out,
Oh,
and Chevrolet is a big part of that.
that is
Huge,
awesome.
yeah, huge deep discounts when you present a valid badge or ID. And then don't forget also the Veterans Day celebration at the State Fair will celebrate veterans as well. And you just have to show a valid ID for that as well. And so just wanted to say a big thank you to the State Fair of Texas and Chevrolet, even though they are not a sponsor for us, but they are out there
We would
helping
love
out
them to
our
be.
first responders. Absolutely. So super. And
That's
they're calling
awesome.
First
I had no
Responders
idea
Day
about that.
every
I think
day.
see and as well it should be. I love that. I love anytime you give folks like that credit, especially so many of us we pinged each other on you and I and Coach Quigley were sending stuff about the 20th commemoration, the 20th anniversary of 9/11, and I think especially with some of those images being so seared in our brains, especially those of us who are old enough when 9/11 happened, to see. And now that we know more here 20 years later, I saw several different documentaries over the weekend that stories I never knew about. And every single story has the same thing: people running away in terror and
Right.
confusion. And JP, those first responders, God bless them. Just,
Running right into it.
yeah, God bless them. Oh,
Yeah.
just rips your
So
heart
this
out.
is
So anytime we can pay tribute to them and help them out, amen.
Amen. So let's go ahead and come on back to the State Fair of Texas. It's on Instagram is where they posted it, and it's on their face or on their website. But this is what it says: Save every day for all you do. The State Fair of Texas and at Chevrolet are proud to offer all active military, retired military, veterans, and first responders a discount every day of the fair. Save $5 off on weekdays, Monday through Friday, and $7 off on weekends, Saturday and Sunday, when you present a valid badge or ID. And you can learn more at bigtex.com, pardon me, /discount. So
Love it.
that's kind of my highlight for the State Fair of Texas today. I thought that was pretty important. And we get that word out and
I
let
think
everybody know,
I think it's
hey,
fantastic.
get on out there and do that. Now, what else is happening at the State Fair this year? And super excited about that is dun 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 dun, the livestock show is back.
Oh,
And
yeah,
so
that's right. Yeah, well, last
yeah,
year we missed out altogether on the state fair. It was like you could drive in? What ended up
well, they
happening
had
last year?
food.
You could
You
drive
paid a
and get the
package.
food or something,
Well, you paid like $20
right?
and you got like 3 corn dogs and a this and a that. It was a package. And basically it was being able to get the State Fair of Texas food is
Right.
what it
Okay.
was.
Gotcha.
But the kids had missed out on the State Fair of Texas
Right.
agriculture FFA competitions, where all the 4-H's and FFAs and
Yep.
families come in to compete with their market animals. And so those smiling faces are back out on the stage.
Love
They have,
that. Love
they've got
that.
the lamb competition, goat competition. They've got horse exhibitors out there.
Well, and they have
They've got,
heifers, and I mean, I remember Ryan Massey, who we just talked about on Friday. His mother had just passed away. Back when he was at Plano East, when I was his teacher, he had, and I know you did the same with Katerina. He had an award-winning heifer, and he got big money, or good money off of that win. So there's kids who work all year, like Katerina did, your daughter. The culmination of a whole entire year's work goes into preparing for the State Fair of Texas with your farm animal.
Yes, and the State Fair is one of the first big tournaments that come rolling around.
Oh,
so
okay.
Normally it's like the State Fair of Texas, and then you'll have the North Texas Fair up in Denton. Then you'll have the Central Texas Fair, which is generally in Waco. And then you come around to Fort Worth, which, by the way, I am super excited about. I will be taking my dad, and we will be going to the Fort Worth Stock Show this year.
Love it.
They serve these amazing cinnamon rolls. And what's funny is
how did I miss that there?
It's because it's back in the livestock show.
Oh.
And these cinnamon rolls are what they used to make at the Fresno County Fair. And they are truly the most amazing cinnamon rolls you will ever eat.
Oh, I did not know. That's kind of like the Fletcher's corny dog of the State Fair of Texas.
Very, very much so. You laugh, but I'm being serious.
I love it.
When I was a kid, I would get those cinnamon rolls. And then when I was walking through the Fort Worth Stock Show with Katerina's animals, I was like, oh my God, I know that smell. And I walked over, and again, it's back with the cows and the sheep and the goats. But I walked back over there and I went, okay. And I said, are you guys from the Fresno County Fair? And they're like, this is the exact same cinnamon roll. That's where we're from. I'm like, oh, and it really is the best. Like I can't find a better cinnamon roll in my 49 years. And
gosh, that's just making my mouth water. Oh, wait, have you tried, remember that place we talked about, Cinnaholic?
Yeah,
have you tried that yet? So it's not even as good as this.
Marginal.
Wow.
That place is marginal.
What, have you had the French toast cinnamon roll?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow. Oh, because their cinnamon rolls are good, except it's one of them I can eat like over a 4-day period because they're ginormous. Right. They're ginormous.
Well, and they're also overly sweet. But I'm telling you, Kathy, you got to go to the Fort Worth Stock Show.
Love
Get out there by the livestock.
Well, we had taken the kids. That's when they got their first cowboy hats and cowboy shirts. We took the kids out there, and always loved the Fort Worth Stock Show rodeo, but I had no idea about the cinnamon rolls.
Yeah, way super good.
Okay,
out of control,
good to know. Good to know.
All right. So again, get out there if you're a veteran, a first responder. Show your identification. Get a discount every day of the State Fair of Texas. Want to thank the State Fair and Chevrolet for recognizing our first responders and our veterans for all that they do. And our hats off to all the kids and all the ag teachers and parents that will go through the grueling stock show known as the State Fair.
Yeah, God bless them. Yeah, so go out and give them a shout out. Give them a thumbs up while you're in between food stops. And JP, they have the Big Tex 2021 Choice Awards. The savory winner is the deep fried seafood gumbo balls. I think I would love that. That just sounds good. And then the best tasting sweet one is the armadillo, and it kind of looks like cinnamon cream cheese something or other, and it's in the shape of an armadillo. And then most creative. So wow, I don't know if this has ever happened, but this is a double winner. Most creative is, again, the deep fried seafood gumbo balls. So are you up for trying that this year?
Oh, heck yeah. You know me.
Rock and roll. I'm with you.
Yep. Iron stomach. Here we go.
That is your day that you are not on JP's Kitchen. Let the record show.
Well, let the record show. All right. Well, we've got 11 days, 1 hour, 28 minutes, 12, 11, 10, 9, and and I can hear the music in my headset. So that means it is time for us to say goodbye to another day of Get Kathy and the Crew. Don't forget to get over to YouTube and join our YouTube page.
Yes.
We want to have 100 by 100 with 100 shows, and we're going to start launching from that platform. So we definitely want you to get over to our YouTube page and join us over there, and so we can have all the good fun and take care of business.
And Fred wants to know, what day is the crew going? Which Sunday? You and I need to discuss, and then Wednesday we'll announce which Sunday is going to be the crew day at the fair, so we can all meet up there and grab our Fletcher's Corny Dogs for breakfast and a fried margarita. I don't know. I don't even know what fun alcohol thing is out there this year. What was it? One year was the last year that you and I saw each other out there. What was it, like a Kool-Aid sangria with a pickle?
Oh, yes.
The pickle was good. I didn't drink the drink. I took a sip and I just ate the pickle.
Yeah, buddy. But yeah, let's plan it out. It'll be Carter's first state fair of Texas.
I love it.
So,
I love it.
I'm excited about that as well. All
love
right.
it.
Everybody have a blessed day, and we will see you down the road.
Sounds good. Stay tuned for Heart and Soul of Texas Women. We're going to be talking religious liberty from 10 to 11 today. Oh, Michelle, go Casey. Got to give her credit where credit is due.
Did they win?
They must have. She's happy.